Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for my final verdict on Starfield. I do appreciate your patience. This video has been long overdue because I've been handling a couple of other reviews throughout this month, whether it be here or on Retro Rebound. This video did get pushed back a lot. It did give me time to put over 100 hours into Starfield, see the main story, the faction quest lines, the new game plus, and now I feel comfortable with everything I've seen to deliver a final say. Yes, this video would have done better if I delivered it much earlier, but the reality is I wanted to see this game through, every single system, every single quest I could possibly find, and then once it's all said and done, deliver that final say, because this is a different situation, right? I've been waiting a long time for Starfield, like many of you, and I feel like it was such a big game that even during my impressions, I didn't fully understand what Starfield was trying to be. Now I get it. I have some criticisms, I have some praises, but ultimately I wanted to make sure I had this video for posterity's sake so that I could come back to it and look at my thoughts around the launch window of Starfield versus what it's going to be like a couple of years from now when it inevitably gets expansions and updates, to see how Bethesda addresses my personal criticisms of the game. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and before we begin, let's talk a bit about Mint Mobile. The following video is made in partnership with Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month without the sacrifice of any speed or data. Take it from me, I tried out the free trial and guess what? Didn't notice a single difference at all. How do they accomplish that? Well, they cut out the middleman, retail, all that fun stuff. They go directly to you and sell online. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Ladies and gentlemen, switching to Mint is super easy thanks to their digital eSIM cards. You can sign up and activate immediately right from your phone from the comfort of your home. And now with this special timed offer, you can get their unlimited plan, which is normally $30 a month, for just $15 a month. And if none of this is enough, how's this for a sales pitch?
Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. Enticing, right?
You can either use my link in the description, trymintmobile.com/MrMattyPlays, or scan the QR code you've seen on screen this entire time and save yourself some money. I love Starfield, but amongst the entire Bethesda IP pantheon of Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Starfield, I love Starfield absolutely the least, without any hesitation. I think Elder Scrolls and Fallout are series that consist of far better made games than Starfield. The biggest problem I have with Starfield is absolutely the way it's designed. It is so obstructive to the key components that make BGS games click that I couldn't help but feel they sacrificed way too much to make Starfield this galaxy-spanning adventure. That's not to put down people who do prefer Starfield over Elder Scrolls, over Fallout. I get it. I see what the game's trying to do, but for someone like me who loves the intimate wandering, which I will break down thoroughly here, I feel Starfield is missing the one distinct factor that makes Bethesda Game Studios games special, and no matter how much time I threw into Starfield, I could not shake off this terrible game flow. And before you say it, yes, it's a new IP. No, I'm not asking for it to be Fallout. No, I'm not asking for it to be Elder Scrolls, but there is a DNA amongst BGS games that is absolutely missing here in Starfield. Different doesn't mean better for me in this instance, but it may for you. When you look at Starfield and all the planets you can go to, whether they're populated or not, you look at Starfield and all of the quests that are packed into the game, it is undoubtedly Bethesda Game Studios' biggest video game ever. This is way bigger than any Fallout game, any Elder Scrolls game you have consumed. It is one of the biggest games of the year, if not the biggest game. You can sink hundreds of hours into this game before mods arrive, before DLC arrives. It is truly a titanic game. There is still some stuff left for me to go out and do, go out and find, and that is impressive how much they have packed into this game. But you know what's funny? Starfield feels like Bethesda Game Studios' smallest game anytime I'm playing it. And the main reason for that is because of the game flow that I have such a big issue with. The amount of menu navigation, the amount of fast traveling, no matter how great the quests are, and the focus being on talking to people, which is something I've begged for Bethesda Game Studios to do, the way that they have handled bringing you from planet to planet, it feels like you just got to shut off part of your brain and ignore that you're fast traveling everywhere. The difference between something like Starfield and, say, Skyrim or Fallout 3 is, yes, you can fast travel in those games too, but typically what will happen is you will fast travel to a nearby location, You will wander to your quest objective somewhere far off, and you might get distracted in the process. Oh, what's that over there? I'm going to check that out. Maybe you knock out an area, a random side quest, a random encounter. There is the unexpected nature that is packed into these games that gives them so much life. But because in Starfield, there are no connecting pieces between all of these siloed off planets, the game just feels like a bunch of small maps that are scattered, which is what's really happening here. It's a bunch of planets all across a massive amount of galaxies. It is impressive on scale, but it doesn't feel big because every planet is bite-sized and hub-like, and there's no connecting pieces to it because everything beyond the boundaries of these towns, of these cities, is procedural. So you're really just zipping between a ton of loading screens, and it's constantly breaking me out of the best part of a BGS game, the world. Whether it's Skyrim, whether it's the Capital Wasteland, hell, I don't care, the Commonwealth. There is a connective tissue from location to location that feeds in from one to the other and makes these maps such a joy to go back to time in, time out. But Starfield can never establish itself because you're always going into one menu or the other. And I would accept this trade-off if it meant when I go up into the stars that I can zip around in my spaceship and I can see all these different things that are waiting out for me in the star systems. But it's more like, as I said in my impressions video, this interactive fast travel menu. And if you don't care about anything I'm saying now, I get it, because then Starfield is amazing, because for me, this is the key thing I love about Bethesda Game Studios games. And I do appreciate that this game really did help me realize, okay, this is beyond even sometimes the role-playing, because I love Fallout 4. Like, I value this exploration above all else, clearly, based off how I just can't give myself over to the Starfield gameplay loop. I really wrestled with it constantly, and even in the most engaging of quest lines like the Crimson Fleet or especially Ryujin Industries, I just was zipping from point A to point B through these menus. Just start, hold down the left analog stick, X to set course, hold X to land, okay, off we go. It just felt like the game's design constantly beat itself as I upgraded my ship's fuel storage. At least when I had less fuel to fast travel, I'd have to go to other systems, and then I would have to check out other planets because the game would force me to stop, just like other Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, although it was still heavily broken up. At least there were moments of, hey, what is that? Oh, wait, what's this ship doing out here? I would have it. It was this cool needle in the haystack moment, but it only enhanced the pain when you realized how fleeting that feeling is, because then you're back into the next menu and fast traveling again. It's just, I know I'm going to sound negative this video, but Bethesda, when you're working on the expansion, I pray to God you're working on a like star system and just fleshing that out instead of, I don't know what the Shattered Space expansion could be, because I do feel like this game walks away from what makes BGS special. But at the same time, it walks towards what Bethesda was missing, which is where you wrestle a lot with the game. The writing, the characters for the most part, some loyalty missions not being great. I'm talking about you, Barrett. I love Barrett. I love his energy, but this dude's loyalty mission was awful. It felt so throwaway. And you get a character like Andreja, and I'm like, you are one of the best written characters of the year. Like, how do we have these two in the same video game? I just feel like the writing quality overall, for the most part, is higher than I ever could have expected from Bethesda Game Studios. And trust me, you can talk in this game. I'm so surprised how many times I'm in conversation and I'll just see 5 dialogue options appear, all of them going in different ways. Like, there is a staggering amount of writing in this game, and that's where I feel like Starfield is going to be a prisoner of the moment. I don't mean to try to be too clairvoyant in what is a final review, but I do truly feel in my heart of hearts that when you look at Starfield versus other games in 2023, especially other RPGs we will talk about in 2023, yeah, I think that Starfield does get beat out based off my taste. Like, I do prefer what, say, Baldur's Gate 3 is doing on a choice level, and I prefer what Cyberpunk's doing on a gameplay level. Again, more on that later. However, Starfield undoubtedly has legs unlike any of these games I'm talking about, and it will be played for years and years, and it will be iterated upon for years and years, where as Bethesda adds more, I could see myself loving Starfield more and more. But that's the trick. I never felt that way about any other previous BGS game. I never felt like I think most of the internet feels like, which is, man, this is like a few mods away from being excellent. I never felt that way, and call me fanboy if you will, but I just never did click with that mindset. I always liked playing BGS games in their vanilla form as often as possible. Starfield is the first game I played where I went, we're just a few short mods away, you know, a couple locations to explore, using some of these factions here, and then, oh man, we're turning it up a notch. And when I had that moment, I went, oh my God, is this what everyone's been feeling for over a decade now? Because I couldn't believe I was thinking these thoughts, but that is what Starfield is. It's the position it's put me in. The main highlight of the game are those faction quest lines. For the most part, I would say outside of the Freestar Rangers, they pretty much nail it. You know, Ryujin Industries is fantastic. I love the idea of helping a corporation and pretty much planting evidence to screw over other corporations and talking about acquiring other companies and just making corporate-based decisions. Like, it's literally an entire quest line about politicking in the business world and making deals with people, and very little combat. I just thought it was a very novel approach, and it was deeply engaging to me. I thought the Crimson Fleet's chasing a treasure storyline, and how I actually got walled off from a part of the quest based off how sloppy I was on the stealth side of things, which we'll talk about. I thought that was cool that they straight up shut me down at Sysdef. And UC Vanguard, talk about a surprise. The Terramorph based storyline, the stealth missions, shout out to Ve Victus. I mean, wow, what a great quest line there. Starfield tells some very memorable stories that digs deep into its lore. But the one thing I felt that was missing from these faction storylines is the continuation of them. Like when you think of Elder Scrolls, I can't wait to see the next iteration of the Dark Brotherhood. When I think of Fallout, what's the Enclave going to be doing in this part of the world? But with Starfield, I don't really think of what's next for Ryujin Industries. What are they going to do next for UC Vanguard? Perhaps it's because it's a brand new series. I might be behaving a little unfairly. I just don't feel the staying power and the identifiable nature like I did with Bethesda's previous factions. But in fairness, Bethesda's previous factions have had since, in the case of Fallout 3, since like 2008 for me to really settle into my life. So that's why I feel like time will be kind to Starfield as it continues to get updated, as they continue to pack things in and fix community-based issues like city maps. Even with all the flaws and criticisms I pointed out, I still think that there is a factor to this game that no one else has really nailed, and it's the scale and everything else that it manages to do within that. Even on choices, to me, the problem with the dialogue and the consequences of the choices you make is a design issue. It's really not a problem of volume. There's tons of writing in Starfield where they have it fully voiced. They absolutely could have gone a million different ways with some of these quest lines, but I think they simplified things down for this persuasion minigame. The amount of skill checks that are just flavor text drives me up a wall because I'm looking at it going, you could have easily gone more broad with how I approach these situations, how I find a solution to these situations. You absolutely could have with how much writing is in this game, but you didn't because of this silly persuasion mini game that was practically ripped out of oblivion and overhauled. And as cute as that game was, it's not where I think any of us wanted RPGs to go. I think it's fun to engage in this persuasion mini game. I like that it's very situational. There's not just a percentage chance for all of these answers, but there is a better option to pick at all times where you really have to listen to what the character's saying to you and feel out, okay, they seem like they jive with this tone more, and typically that would be the right choice. I do like that you have to pay close attention and it's finely tuned in that way, but I think with all the dozens of lines that they pack into that persuasion minigame, yo, Bethesda, just do skill checks. Save yourself the time, honestly, and call it a day. So it felt like a missed opportunity there, but it reminded me a lot of the Outer Worlds through and through when I wrap things up, and that's a great thing. I love the Outer Worlds so much. I think that's another overlooked RPG. Maybe I'm just a sucker for RPGs here, but I love that game so much. And this game just reminded me a lot of that. It feels like Bethesda just took a page out of the Obsidian playbook, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Now, on the gameplay side of things, Starfield feels really good to play. I still absolutely adore the ship combat. I love the ship building. Every single build I've done or ship I've bought has felt different. I just think that this is so impressive they pulled it off, because it was the system I had the least faith in. It has the most mechanical depth, from thrusters to lock-ons that pretty much put VATs in space. It can be an actual challenge. You can speed by certain enemies in these quick dogfights, or make a hulking, massive warship. I mean, you can really play how you want out there, and I just love all the ideas you can come up with. Like, Bethesda, I think, executed the ship part of things fantastically here. Now, on the ground, the biggest problem I have with Starfield is really the loot. I think the loot you get in this game is awful, and that's because of the digipick system. You spent so much time in this thing, like, yo, you got to get the easy digipick mod. This is what I'm talking about when I said I immediately started thinking of mods. Like, easy digipick, every single lockpick is just a novice level. Bethesda, just go back to the lockpicking minigame of Fallout and Elder Scrolls. There's a reason they were shared amongst those two, because it worked. If it's not broken, don't fix it. This was a way better way of doing things, because when you go to, for example, when I was doing the Crimson Fleet storyline, there is this point, and I talked about this in my mods video, there is this point where you're in a prison and, oh my god, everything is locked, and you are in that digipick minigame more than you're walking around shooting and looting. That's the design problem with Starfield. It's almost over designed. It almost had too much time, it feels like, in certain moments, where they just settled into very weird, comfortable pockets like this digipick mini game, where it's like, it's not as great as they seem to have thought it was. But you can get over all of that. The shooting feels good. The controls in terms of flying and the boost pack feel good, even if I still think Bethesda needs vehicles in this game when you get to the ground level and you're exploring what is on these planets. I think it would be a lot better if you even had just jet boots. Something that zips me across the map quicker would be much appreciated. A mech even. We'll take anything at this point. However, I will say one thing I recognized, and this is the benefit of taking my time with this, is going back to Cyberpunk 2077, one of my favorite RPGs of the last generation. I gotta say that this game showed me Starfield's level design and stealth gameplay is just not up to par with the rest of the industry. Now, I think the biggest strength of Cyberpunk 2077 is its gameplay, so I'm going to try to be fair here. But when I was going through Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and just going into the base game content again, I was recognizing the Watch Dogs-like nature of its level design, where I could zip through cameras, I could quick hack people, I could do stealth takedowns, I could shoot people with a silencer, and others wouldn't realize that. There were different entrances to buildings, there were rooftop entrances, there were so many ways to play the game. And Starfield, with all of its expansiveness and openness, I was thinking this should be the star of the show. But so much of the stealth gameplay is on rails. Like, when you find a vent, it's deliberately placed there for a mission. And I feel like the game just could benefit so much from opening up. Like, the first UC Vanguard mission is what I was hoping the rest of Starfield would be like. But the rest of the stealth in the game just felt so manufactured. Like, oh, you can manipulate someone now, but just for this mission. Oh, you can go through these vents, but just for this mission. I just feel like the alternative options in Starfield on gameplay, where it really is supposed to thrive since it's more of a shooter than anything, it just feels like it falls apart, because the stealth detection, even with someone who had a fully ramped up stealth focused character from background to skills, I built stealth and I was getting caught constantly. And I know I'm going to get hit with the skill issue stuff, but I swear to God, I was doing everything. I was reloading. I was like, this stealth in this game just isn't good. The level design doesn't support the stealth. Like, I just have to go from the perimeter, snipe people, and then crawl my way in. What the stealth does at this point is just enemies shoot in my direction, but they don't see me necessarily. It's really strange. So yeah, it just, playing Cyberpunk really opened my eyes to, like, wow, this gameplay is a little bit behind. It feels good when you're shooting and looting, kind of like in Fallout 4, but if it tries to do anything else, it feels like I'm playing the game how it shouldn't be played. So yeah, surprise, surprise. Got a lot of critiques of Starfield here. I'm sure 2015 Matty would be like fainting out of his chair right now. This game is special. You know, what they're trying to do with this open galaxy, for many people, is this worthy trade-off. I really appreciate the ability to go to every planet. But at the same time, I think that experiment was a failure. I think if you gave me 100 planets or 3 star systems fully fleshed out, they could have accomplished all they wanted to in Starfield while making it feel infinitely bigger than it actually is. The fast traveling just kills any momentum the game builds up. Plucking out the exploration hurts the game. No House Faroon is crazy to me, especially with Andreja being there. I'm like, okay, I guess this is DLC. I feel like that's a complete missed opportunity. all in all, Starfield is a great game. One of my favorites of the year. I'm sure this final say on things doesn't indicate that at all, but again, I have a 30-minute video dedicated to what I like about the game. I'm not going to recycle old content and old talking points just to make sure people feel okay with my opinion. This is more so airing my criticisms than anything. Starfield is a top 5 game for me right now this year because I love what Bethesda Game Studios does. I love how jam-packed and detailed these environments are. I love how interactive it is. I love the focus on questing and writing. The gunplay feels great. I love how the armor looks. The art design is beautiful. The soundtrack may be a little too ambient at times, but still is goated in my eyes. There is a sense of atmosphere here. There are times I just want to pause and take it all in, but this experience is just too broken up for me to be like, this is the best stuff I've played this year. It's awesome. It's definitely worth your time, and it takes a while to open up and explain itself to you, which it often poorly does. And New Game Plus, I think, is fantastic. For some people, it's like this, oh, it's the same thing, but just a couple things change. I think it's awesome that things change at all and that you can tackle certain quest lines a little bit differently. To me, that's one of the shining parts of the game. I do hope in future updates they expand that more to, you know, quest lines beyond the main one. But I still think that what they have here is great for the most part. It's definitely a return to form in my eyes. I do view it as a better game than Fallout 4, which was a low point for many people with BGS, and I feel is orienting them in the right place to go. When it comes to Elder Scrolls 6, I do worry a bit for the future of that game because Bethesda's obsession with procedural content and bigger is better really doesn't jive with me anymore. It didn't jive with me in 76's mindset of what if every NPC was a player and this kind of infinite content dump into the project as a live service game to Fallout 4's legendary weapons. What if we didn't do unique weapons, but we just constantly recycled assets and put special effects on weapons? It's almost like Skyrim cursed them to think, how do we make things endless? And they didn't recognize that we were rerunning the game multiple times. We weren't just sticking with one save file and just constantly going with radiant quest lines. That's not what we were doing. We were going back and replaying the stuff you made. So in that sense, I feel like Bethesda missed the mark. But these are my final thoughts on Starfield here in its launch month. We'll see what changes as they add more updates. Bethesda promised years and years of support for Starfield. So fingers crossed that some of the complaints I have here are ameliorated in the years to come. But naturally, I will update as time goes on. With that, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts on Starfield after the game's been out for about a month now, on how you're feeling about it. Has it delivered for you? Do you have problems with it? Are you absolutely loving it? Not liking it at all? I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.